I'm Johan Rashivega. This is Holyoke Media, and here we are in our podcast station number 1 in our studios in One Court Plaza in Holyoke, Massachusetts. And I want to welcome Al Wilson, who is the founder and CEO of Beyond Walls, coming back to Holyoke, second time here. And this is so exciting because last year, the city of Holyoke was transformed because of this amazing project and collaboration with Beyond Walls. And now you're back. So
we're back.
Welcome, Al.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So for people who may have all of a sudden found out, wait, what happened here? And beautiful murals, color, representation, ideas, design, shapes, and people wondering, how did this happen? Who did this? So tell us a little bit about your work and the idea of what Beyond Walls has been doing for different communities.
Sure. So, Beyond Walls organically came from community meetings in Lynn, Massachusetts, in 2016. So I knew Lynn. My background was in media. I worked for a radio station and a newspaper, Phoenix Media and FNX Radio. And so we broadcast from Lynn, Massachusetts. And this dates me, but this is late 90s, early 2000s to 2005. And our broadcast station was in Lynn, Mass. So I knew Lynn, and life had taken me elsewhere, and then I returned back to the North Shore of Massachusetts and was playing soccer. I played soccer here in the 413 at Westfield State. But soccer's always been this great community tie for me. Wherever I live, I'm playing with different and in very diverse communities. So a variety of players. But some of the guys that I was playing with were talking about some community meetings. I started attending those, and they really focused on what people felt was holding downtown Lynn back. And at that time, it was 3 underpasses that weren't lit. They were MBTA-owned infrastructure for the commuter rail. Other pocket areas of this downtown that were dark, and some activity that was happening there that really was deterring from the business community and the economic vitality of the city. And then what was then a newly designated Mass Cultural Council Art and Culture District, and the desire to have public art up so that you knew you were in a cultural district. So 22 of us formed a sort of committee, and we ended up working on this for 22 months, all as volunteers. We lit 3 bridges, so 16,000 feet of LED dynamic lighting was installed. And we did 2 rounds of art installations that featured artists that reflected the cultural identities of Lynn. Lynn has all of the challenges of a former gateway city. It just happens to have this ditty, like people know Lynn is the city of sin, right? And that was holding the city back. And so there could be a new narrative on that city that's, again, the narrative's undeserved, but let's make it a city full of art. So we did that, and we started sort of really focusing on Lynn for our first 2 years. We formed as a nonprofit. Prior to that, we were aligned fiscally to the nonprofit arm of the Lynn Housing Authority. They operate as a CDC for the city. So we really got to know the city really well, but we also started to really get to know the other gateway cities of the Commonwealth, the former industrial cities. And so once we got the core team really established, and we started looking to see could we serve needs that were being sort of shared by cities coming to us, we did an open call for cities to apply, and Holyoke was one of them. So this is last year, and that had us come in with a coalition that had invited us in. It was led by Mayor Garcia and Nueva Esperanza, but also really the public schools here, the Office of Planning and Community Development, and many others. So we were invited in. We looked at the city, and of course I knew it from my days at Westfield. So it was a fantastic city, and so that's what sparked us last year working together, hand in hand with community members, to help put up some large-scale pieces of art, and that's what you saw last year. And now we're back for round 2.
So From the experience of last year, there were murals that had a really meaningful and impactful representation of the community that is part of Holyoke, and that also created a more vivid awareness of feeling proud and feeling comfortable watching and seeing that in different spaces, in murals and buildings that may not be in its best condition right now, but thanks to it, today they have a totally different way for people to enjoy the city. How was for you, based on the experience of what you saw and what you were able to be at during last year's round of murals, what did you saw as response of the community and the reactions and the even impromptu celebrations that took place?
For me, and we serve many communities now. We've done work in 9 cities, and it's growing. Right, we're about to announce some other cities that we're going to, and this is part of a street art tour. So Holyoke is the first stop. The most special moments happened in Holyoke, I would say. Stuff that just, you're just so happy to see it, and then you get back in the truck and suddenly find yourself emotional. It was very powerful. I think, we had a charge that was issued by community members in the city. This is such a sizable Puerto Rican community that we wanted to really reflect that in the walls, have folks that identify as Puerto Rican to see that they are seen, they are heard, they're represented, and that's why we brought in the rock stars of Puerto Rico, right? And it wasn't exclusive. We did bring in the artist Bordalo too, that did the super large scale moose, and that's also that's sort of telling the tale that all of this plastic that you think is being recycled isn't. It's going into landfills. It's going into incinerators. It's becoming microplastic and getting into our bodies, right? So how do we tell that tale and show that and put that up? And so that was Bordalo's piece, but the rest was an entirely Puerto Rican lineup. And so that was last year's charge. Like, how do we get this ready for what would be the only the second designated Puerto Rican district in the United States? In the community partners, we're informed by the community, and I would say no one informed us more than folks at Nueva Esperanza, right? Current employees, current leadership, their board of trustees, past members of Nueva, people that had partnered with Nueva. So Nueva played this huge role in informing us, and I tip my hat to the board and to their team, who worked very, very hard. They were fantastic, but there were special party moments, special celebrations under every wall, really unbelievable happenings. We ended up, at Bordalo's wall at the Moose. At one point, we decided that we would have a barbecue and cook for anyone that showed up. Anyone that showed up got food, got drink, anyone. And we had all walks of life down there mixing it up together. And so that part of that community celebration is huge. And now we're honored that the city is looking to build a park there, outside of the Moose. So the power of art, it's economic development, it's community development, but it allows the city and city leadership to also see things and the possibility of things. And so having that as a park there will be fantastic. So, but I'd be amiss if I don't talk about this year's artists and the lineup a little bit.
Absolutely, because we are talking about 10 new murals in Holyoke that are going to be created in different spaces, now even expanding further in other areas that were not as close as some of the murals in this last year. So tell us a little bit about these new spaces and also the artists who are going to be creating these new murals.
Yeah, so we look to, we want to have a nucleus in the downtown, a walkable path, so that folks can really take in the tour of the art. And so The curation still ties to the cultural identities of the city. So we're still bringing in some Puerto Rican artists this year, right? But we're bringing in other artists, right? Afro-Caribbean artists, artists from elsewhere in South America and Latino artists, as well as some European artists. So you'll see different, they will reflect their culture and their identity in these pieces, but those tie back to not just Holyoke present day, but Holyoke's rich history. And it has been a history of change, right? Nothing static in this city. So you'll see that. But we're also tying into in a deeper, more profound way, the education that's here and the teachers and the educators and the administration. So we are working with Holyoke Community College. There will be a piece up at Holyoke Community College, and as someone that went to community college for a year after high school, I know the role that those community colleges play in these communities, so that's fantastic. And then we're really tying in with the public schools, so and after-school programs. So we provide a resource that we call Classroom to the Streets for Holyoke for free, and that allows us to build with the educators a resource for them to use. The art itself, it features all the elements of social studies, right? Geography, history, culture is embedded in the art. And so if we can facilitate that and have the youth see that they themselves are reflected in what they're learning, right? If they're looking at a piece by an artist who's from where their family hails from, and if they're Dominican and it features the plantain plant and it features a woman in rollers and the woman looks like their mom, they'll identify with that. And what we found on the tours, because they study in the classroom and then we get them out on the street for a tour, those students that are often ESL learners that maybe are a little bit more reserved, they don't want to step forward, they end up leading the tour because they end up talking about what they see. And so that's why the engagement is so rich. And so we're working with some fantastic educators here, salt of the earth, to facilitate that. As far as the artwork, it is a little bit, we're getting ready to create a really cool tour. We've actually got a bunch of events planned, and folks will be able to come on those for free. It's up on our website, beyondwalls.org, but we'll also be announcing it on our social media, Beyond Walls Lynn, on both Instagram and Facebook.
And thinking about the way this in the educational aspect contributes so much is not only the representation itself and the opportunity for community to see themselves reflected in this art, but also to break the barriers of art to be contained between four walls in spaces that sometimes are not welcoming or not necessarily directed to them as an audience for enjoying art, and also for them to see it as something that they can immediately feel compelled to. And that in itself, I think, is a really powerful tool to make sure that people understand, see, appreciate, and feel included in art as a way that it doesn't have to be between four walls and only available for some.
That's right. I mean, the great thing about street art is there's no rules of engagement, right? And there's no barrier of entry. There's no charge to take this in. Art's subjective. So look, this piece doesn't appeal to you. The hope is here in Holyoke that you see a piece in the background and you walk on. What we've seen is that various groups will often meet in front of a piece of art, seemingly from different cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, and a conversation starts. And you can see it from afar, and you're not privy to the details, but then that group talks for a bit, and then they move on together to take into another piece of art. So art can be this great connector. And I would just say that there's also obviously the economic component, right? If we can increase the business for the mom and pop eateries, the cafes, the bodegas, those restaurants here that it's a business, but it's a family story, right? It's the real deal, the real McCoy. This is authentic food, and you have food from like 4 or 5 continents within 100 yards of here, right? Mm-hmm. How do we tell that story? Because that's a big part of the culture. And so we highlight it on something we call the Real series. So we do a lot of broadcast-ready footage of these businesses telling their story, and we'll share those on our social media. And we sort of use the artwork that's nearby that dovetails to where that business's sort of cultural background is from and the food that they produce. But the art works as a wayfinding sign to find the business. But if we can just get those businesses just doing a few more transactions per hour, right? Mm-hmm. It can be a game changer. It's a second job opportunity for someone that's local. And so that's what we really want to put on the map. Holyoke, I'm blown away by the food here. It's fantastic. More folks need to experience it. Folks in the city know what they've got, but folks outside the city need to start coming into South Holyoke and Holyoke Main Street and having some food, and hopefully the art can help that.
So the activities for this second round of creation of the murals by Beyond Walls and all the artists that you're bringing just begun this June 16th, and it's ongoing as we talk right now, and there will be the culmination of it by the matching with the celebration of Noche de San Juan.
That's right.
And what's the plan?
Well, that's on the 24th. And so there'll be a lot of event. On the 21st, we've got a Meet the Artist event at Nueva, Esperanza. So more details on our website and on our social media, and we'll announce more there. The 24th is a celebration around the whole city. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to probably be putting up art and then all the way to the 30th. Some of these pieces are very large. We have to plan for maybe a couple rain days, although we hope not. We didn't get one last year. But there'll be a lot of pop-up events. There'll be a lot of celebrations. I mean, last year we had, we were just mentioning it before we came on here, and we had a dance group show up at Don Rymix's wall under Main Street and dance, and we had no idea that was going to happen. So there's a lot of elements that are just spontaneous, seemingly, that happen under these walls. So I would just advise folks, if they can get to downtown Holyoke, and check out the walls and check out the art and actually interact with the artists. They're on the walls. You'll actually see these pieces come to life.
You were mentioning that this is also part of a tour, and this will include other locations, other cities. Which ones are part of this whole plan?
Yeah, we're biting our tongues a little bit here not to announce, and we're going to announce shortly. There's a lot that obviously comes into play. So we had 11 cities come calling for to be part of the tour, and just based on capacity, based on the challenges, quite frankly, of it's always hard to raise money for art and culture, and it's gotten harder since the pandemic. Whatever iteration of the pandemic we're now in, it's more challenging. The landscape's changed, and it's tough. I think for us, it's this. Folks know the challenges of some of the school systems and what these teachers are up against, right? Like huge class sizes, no teachers' aid. This is really why we do the work that we do. It's like there's a power to the art. There's the economic side, it's the community development side, but this educational resource side is big. And so we want to be able to facilitate this in the cities that we serve, and we exclusively serve gateway cities. So we'll be announcing, but we're both running on the street and running around chasing funding for the additional cities of the tour. But we'll announce while we're here in Holyoke. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a close city nearby. So if folks really like the art and they want to come see more art, we'll be in the 413 doing some work. So it's good. I have to thank the folks that really have helped that. I mentioned Nueva, Esperanza. They've just been great. But again, City of Holyoke, Mayor Garcia, the City Council, again, that Office of Community and Planning and Community Development. But it's the heart of Holyoke, Holyoke Public Schools, the I have to mention them because they help us so much. But United Rentals on all of our equipment, it's a lot of heavy machinery. And if we didn't have the relationship that we have with United Rentals, which quite frankly, they have job opportunities, so they're hiring. They want to get that in front. A lot of folks that work as mechanics and drivers for them live here in Holyoke, and so they want to be seen as serving that community, and they're doing so through this work. The International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, right? So a lot of union folks that are here are in the painting trades, and we couldn't do this work without them. So I'd be amiss if I didn't mention it. But the city has just been fantastic. The community, the elected officials, the department heads that make this city run. And because I've been touching base with them so often, they know who I'm speaking to when I mention that. But the city's just been, it's an amazing city. It's a wonderful, wonderful city and a wonderful community, and we're so honored to help serve this community.
And as you mentioned, particularly the trades and the opportunities that this project brings for people to have jobs as a part of supporting and making this possible, is another great way for members of the community to see that creating a piece of art in this large dimension is not as easy as having a canvas in front of you or a wall like the ones that we are right now around. And I think that's another perfect way for people to see how much this can reclaim spaces, offer opportunities, get creative, and at the same time, I wanted to check in with you about something that I was really fascinated to see. After last year, and seeing how the murals were there for people to enjoy, you're coming back and you see that all of them are still there, basically intact.
Yes.
Because as we know, street art, public art is ephemeral, and it always has this potential risk of being painted over, deleted, or vandalized, which is not the case.
No.
What are your thoughts on seeing that the murals are there almost the same way when you left?
Well, we've installed now probably 170, 180 pieces. There's no tail of the tape, I don't think, but I think Beyond Walls has probably installed more art in New England than anyone else as far as public art, and yet we've served the gateway cities, right? So cities that are challenged economically, that do have, just trash removal, snow removal, all sorts of challenges, right? There's sort of a street code, I would say, right? Like the skill that it takes to control aerosol, right, in real world environment, 135 foot up on a lift in the wind. And you'll see this year, we have some artists that are coming in that that's what they do, hyper-realism. It'll look like a photo. And get your popcorn ready because this is going to be a show. We have Afro-Caribbean artists that are coming in that do a really colorful celebration of graphic design and graphic work, right? They'll be up. But we've also got folks from Pioneer Valley that are here in Holyoke, who are involved, who will have pieces, who are also helping us on the organization and running and artist assistance, and there's an awful lot, that is involved in this. And I think there's we focus to show a highlight on them as well, and there's a mutual respect. And so, we haven't had any of those pieces that I've mentioned over the 9 cities. We haven't had them tagged. So there's that. And you always get folks that say the what ifs, right? The what ifs. But we try not to concentrate on those because you have to move forward. The art is temporary, but there's a story behind every piece, and there's a story behind if a piece was to evolve and change, The great thing about this is we're opening up the door for a lot more canvases and expanding people's minds on where you might be able to put up public art. and that creates a lot more spaces for local artists, right? So I think it's I think in that regard it's been really positive and eye-opening to see how much support you have from those artists that are here, and it takes true skill to be able to control a can and do this work. So I'm excited for it. You know, we've got a lot of artists that are working in liquid paint as well. So I think that's the fun of it, right? Come see the variety of the work, and there'll be even more variety this year. And you'll see a bunch of different disciplines and styles coming up.
So Beyond Walls is in Holyoke, second year, and a lot of amazing experiences to see as the artists put together the new murals, but also some activities that will be popping up during this time.
Yeah.
We have mostly really nice weather and perfect opportunity to gather outdoors and to have a good time.
Yeah, and I'll just date one thing. If folks want to, you know, we're going to have several mural tours. One is we're partnering with the city and One Holyoke, as well as United Rentals, to do a cleanup mural tour on the 24th. We're going to meet at Nueva, Esperanza at 10 a.m. And really work to clean up the city but provide a mural tour throughout. So 10 to 12, we'll provide all the materials. We'll clean this city, and we'll showcase the art at the same time. So 10 a.m., meet at Nueva Esperanza. So look to hopefully see a bunch of people there.
This is our conversation with Al Wilson, founder and CEO of Beyond Walls, and enjoying so much the idea of having you here for the second time and all the amazing projects and work that is going to stay here in Holyoke to expand the beautiful collection of art that now is everywhere in the downtown area of Holyoke. So I'll thank you so much for this work. Thank you for this time to talk about the plans, and also looking forward to have more of these activities going on, and also the opportunity to welcome you to this new home for you and Beyond Walls here at Holyoke Media in our new studios.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.